demand 5 topics to talk about on the podcast by 5 o'clock, and we're all working 9 to 5 jobs. And so basically, me and Mahone had to stop what we're doing and just figure out 5 topics for today's podcast. Otherwise, Laz was going to quit. I don't know why Laz didn't come up with anything. But
did it work? Did you think of topics? Like, did it work? Like,
did you?
Yeah, I got one. I got one good one. I think it's one good one.
I didn't see it yet. I didn't see
I didn't have to. I'm going to save it. I got one. Don't
All right, so what?
Thought about it, and I'm like,
let's start the podcast off.
All right.
How about you tell us what
what your topic is? Yeah.
We're going into mine right away.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
One juicy thing.
I'm
Okay.
gonna start off strong.
It's probably not even that good, but whatever. Okay, so I was actually reading a article about. You guys might know more about this than me. It's about some Overwatch League, and it's talking about the person named Ellie, I think it's pronounced.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about this. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, and I could be wrong in the story, I quickly read it, is that it's about an Overwatch team picked up this player, like really fast, like kind of like nobody knew who this person was, and then they heard it was a girl, but they weren't sure if it was a girl, but it was like a really good player. And then there was like all this controversy and like a lot of toxic like behavior and comments coming back, which was super weird. And then it turns out it wasn't even a girl. Like it was a guy that was playing this like social experiment this whole time. I think his name was Punisher. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not really sure the premise. Like like I said, I read like 2 things on it quickly, and I was just like, okay, this makes no sense to me. But I think it actually kind of proved a good point. Like for me, like my question was going to be about this whole thing is, do you think, well, this might be a bad wording, but like, have you guys ever played with a mixed team, like girls and guys? If so, did you like it? Would you do it again? Do you think it's a possibility, or do you think it just should be like men league and women's league, essentially, kind of like in other sports too?
I'll let Persian take it since it seems like you are nodding your head.
I have played with a girl. She was really good. Her name was Infusion. I think she tried streaming for a bit. A different game, but we played in Source together. She was really good. She stopped playing for whatever reason, but she was fine. She was keeping up with us because the idea is that like usually people assume that guys are better than girls, and girls don't really. There's no girl that's like pro and has like made a name for herself. But she was like doing really well, like I want to say like top 3 on the team as far as frags go at the time. And I think that CS is a little different than like a traditional sport because it doesn't really take the physical aspect, and they could for sure be playing at a pro level. My only issue is I think a lot of the time they lack them. Like there's so many obstacles in the way for them that it's hard for them to get over those mental humps to be able to play pro. I think the mental fortitude required to do that is pretty hard for them because they're a girl, and it's weird. Like some girls that don't deserve it will get a shot, and then some girls that work really hard and are pretty good, like it almost like intimidates guys and they don't give them a shot. It's weird.
Would you say that the team environment was different compared to like when you played on, your all male teams basically? Like was there any difference?
I would say the only difference was we were really blunt in the fact that she was a girl and she was doing good. So we played a match against her and we won that match, and then we joked around with her like, oh yeah, like we beat you, whatever, and then she would like kind of be like, well, my team sucked or whatever. But she would do really well, and then be like, oh wow, you're doing really good for a girl and stuff like that. And then she would just be like, yeah, and you're doing really bad for a guy or something, like, you know what I mean? Like she would kind of like joke back, and she knew how to handle that kind of criticism or like the that kind of those assumptions we would make on our part to kind of like make fun of the fact that she's a girl. But she'd do great, and she kind of go back and forth. I think that's a big thing for a girl. If you want to go pro, I think you need to be able to kind of like make fun of guys or put guys in their place when they joke around with you, or just take it as a joke. Like it's not always like malicious. It's just like, hey, we're just joking around.
That's pretty interesting. I can't really say I've ever really played with a girl on a team, but like I played with a few girls in like the 10-mans that we have at UBC, right? It's definitely like I don't really think they're really treated all that differently for the most part. I think it's just like, yeah, I think it's mostly still the same. Maybe like those meme jokes don't really go their way as much as like some of the other guys do, but in general, I don't really think there's that much of a difference, at least.
No, fair enough. Same with me too. Like actually, for some of the people that know my 1.6 history, the first team I went into IM, like, so I'm talking like old school IM. So it's like, I thought it was pretty decent back then. But anyways, out of my circle of friends, I was the first one to go IM, and it was a mixed team. And it was with one female player, and she was actually really good. Like, in kind of the same thing as Persian, like good attitude, could shoot the shit, joked around. I think in some of the tough situations, like it kind of got a little complicated, I think, with like being level headed. But I think for the most part, like it was totally fine. And I kind of thought about it when I was reading this article, because when I played with them, like I learned a lot, like from her too. Like she was a pretty good player considering I was playing at that level and stuff like that. And even when I was in the IM team, like they took a gamble on me because I was pretty new. But like again, like she kind of, her and another guy taught me some stuff about the game, and yeah, like it was cool. But it's weird that we don't see like any females in a mixed team. Like you only really see it at like local lands and stuff like that. Maybe like I haven't seen it at one of our Northwest lands in a long time. And there's a particular girl I'm thinking about that was in those, but I don't want to say it. And but I mean, like other lands I've been to, like
say it?
I guess I could. That pigtail girl, like Liz or whatever. Do you remember her?
Yeah, I remember her. Do you remember?
Yeah. So
Game Clock Slan. Emily was there too. Remember?
yeah. So yeah, good. Yeah, good. Yeah. Well, I remember that. Awesome. But same thing, right? Like a couple. It wasn't that common though. Like I mean, you see some of these girls did it, and like the only other girls I can think of that I know are the CLG girls. I don't even know if they're CLG anymore, but like Die and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like she played with a bunch of guys that I know and like mixes and stuff, and I've never heard anything bad. Like even my friend Reese that played with Die in a California pug as a mix with like JDM and stuff like that, it was fun. Like he said it was awesome, and she's really good. It's just, to me, it's just weird that we haven't seen that yet at all. Like I guess in like higher tiered CS, I guess. Like I think there's some really good girls that play that are better than a lot of guys. So I don't know, maybe I don't know. It's just a really weird concept, and I was kind of thinking about it when I was reading this article, because I thought, oh, like that's interesting, and like there was like a lot of backlash. Like some people were like, it seemed like some people were almost upset that there was a girl playing on this like all man team, and I was like, why?
Really?
But then there was people that were like, that's so great, like she deserves it, blah 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 blah, and I was like, okay, sweet, yeah, like if she's good enough, like
Apparently she went, or he, because it was an
Yeah.
experiment.
Well, yeah,
Outed. He's back on the team.
oh, okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, so like I only read two
Apparently,
articles.
that's
Yeah,
what-
so I have no idea. I know nothing about that community, but like I think there's a lot of backlash about it, but I think at the same time it's a really good experiment, because I think people are so close-minded about that. Like if I knew a girl that played, actually I almost played with a girl that is it Pterodactyl or what's her name?
Yeah.
Pterodactyl.
Yeah.
Pterodactyl, yeah.
Yeah, Pterodactyl. Yeah. Sorry. For a team I played with, Surreals, they had her on the team forever. And like she's really good. Like I've seen her off, and I'm like, holy shit, she's better than me. Like, fucking
That's
nuts.
not hard.
Oh yeah, but no, like, but I mean, like for real though. Like I mean, she was better than Persian too. But I mean, like it was just I don't know. But so I mean, I don't know. It's just anyway. I just thought it was interesting because it's like it's such a weird thing we don't see. And I mean, it's like in traditional sports like football, it's all guys, whatever. And I get that. Like that's different. I think that is different. And like I think any woman would admit they would never play in an all-man league or whatever, or like a mixed league like that, because that would kill them. Like there's a size difference in bodies.
Mhm.
But in esports and CS or any game, there's no limitations like physically really. So it's like, why is it not a thing yet? Like, is there not enough good female pros that can play on a decent tier 1 team, maybe tier 2 team?
I don't think it's very accepting of female gamers. I actually have a theory that I think female gamers could be better than guys, because, and this theory comes from okay, so soldering for electronics. Apparently, girls are like way better at it than guys. I don't know, Mahone. Do you have?
I think it's just because like girls are generally much more detail oriented. At least like in general, I think it's just like they care much more about these details. So it's like when it comes to like soldering stuff, right? Like I can definitely see that being a thing where like they care that much more about like the small details, whereas
Really?
guys are more like bigger picture people. Like I'm a bigger picture person.
Whoa, dude!
So,
You're putting girls
yeah.
in a box, dude.
No. I'm just saying like that's just how things are.
So toxic.
Yeah. No, I agree that like yeah, but so apparently the dexterity is this guy I was talking to anyways. He was like a professor and he was like they have really good dexterity when it comes to like their fingers and like details and stuff like that. And my theory is that I think if a girl goes like pro and can withstand the like the tolerance of like a gaming computer or whatever, they could be better than guys. As far as that goes. But I don't know. That's just like a theory I have. But no girl. The other problem is they might lack, unfortunately, the mental game of like the way guys are. Guys, I think, are more like they can brush off small things, where I think girls sometimes internalize that stuff.
Whoa, that's really loud.
Yeah, Laz, I was about to say your mic is a little bit too close. I can hear you breathing.
Okay, so, is that better?
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Okay, sorry.
This is the ASMR stream.
I was saying that earlier. I was like, and welcome to the podcast. No, anyway, I'm just playing around with the new mic. But no, I agree. Like, so when I played with this particular female, her name was Evil Girl was her name, but it was spelled like EVYL and then girl. I think her real name was like Tamara. Shout out to Tamara. Same thing. Danny made a really great point. So I remember when we played, she was really particular about certain things, like almost kind of meticulous things where like it had to be perfect. But you had 4 other guys that were like, no, like that's fine. It's gonna be okay. But like it was always kind of that balance. But I think that was really good. And that's kind of like in work too, like in your everyday life. When you have a mixed gender, I think that's really good because it brings so many positives into it, right? Like, I mean, when I was in school, like I did a group project with all guys. It was a shit show. Like it sucked. But I think having women is great. Like they bring a lot of good attributes to anything. Like, so I didn't mind it. But I thought it was interesting because really I look at all these top 20 teams. I'm like, there's not one girl. There's not one single girl in this thing. And then tier 2 teams, I don't really know a lot about them, but there's none. Like from what I know, unless I'm missing one. But it's kind of like a weird, not accepted thing, and it's like it has to be men versus men and girls versus girls. Like I don't understand that. So that's kind of why I thought it was interesting because I think it was a good social experiment. I think it might not have been viewed that way, but I think it is good to see. Like, why not be open-minded? Like I played with 2 girls that were decent, and yeah.
I think a big thing, at least in terms of CS, I think a big thing is that if you look at all the top females, right, like they all play, in an all-female team. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that, like, if you're a female and you're trying to, like, let's just say your goal is actually to make it pro, right? There's so many, like, other options for you to just, play on a main or advanced team and get a salary and stuff like that, right? The only thing is that you just have to play on an all-female team, right? To people or to girls who are at that level, like, maybe they're just, they're just like, okay, it's like I can either try to take the longer route to becoming a pro and it's not even guaranteed yet, or I can just play for this main/advanced team, get a salary already, get to travel the world, get to do most of the things that like pro males already get to do, but just like on a like on a smaller scale. So I think that's kind of the reason why it's like we don't really see them or see them play at the absolute top level because there is that out for them, right? If that didn't exist, I think then maybe we might actually see like more females. I wouldn't say a lot, but just like more.
Yeah. No.
Because I don't know if you guys remember. Do you guys remember Mask?
Yeah, I totally.
Yeah. She was actually pretty good for like just in general as a player. So not even just like male or female, but just as a player. I think she tried to go the path. I remember she always talked about how she didn't want to take that out of just joining an all female team. Like she actually wanted to go far in the game. She actually wanted to become pro and stuff like that. So, I mean, maybe we should have had her as a guest for this if you were going to bring up this topic.
Well, I think either way, like it's still something we can do. And actually that's a really good point. She played with like a lot of good people, and then she just kind of fell off. But like, yeah, she was really good. Like she was a really good player. Like, and I'm not even just like girl or guy or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like I know she's a girl. Like she was really good, and like she had a good mindset in the game and was willing to do whatever she had to get at a good level. I think she make pro like invite back then, or did she just make main?
She played MDL. I know that for sure. But,
yeah, and I mean that's pretty incredible. Like I mean, you don't see that. I mean, from what I know, you don't see that very often that you know of. Like most girls that I've played with, like they're not as good, but I mean they like. I don't know. Like there's a couple girls that I played with that have been great, and then some that are not. But I mean, but that's like any person. Like I have some guy friends that are good, and guys like Persian that suck, and it's just like sweet. I'm just kidding. I just want to be toxic. I'm just waiting for him to blow up. I really am. But no, it's
felt like you were gonna say something. Like I could kind of tell something was gonna happen. I wanted to beat you to the punch, and then.
No, that's the thing, you know. Second IGL, like I'm usually on top of it. So
second IGL,
it's what I do, baby.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I still think like esports is such a weird, like I hate using esports, but like the whole thing is its own is still so new. Like it's been around forever, but being mainstream and being kind of like a actual sport. It's kind of there's so many learning steps for this whole process and kind of like trial and error and everything too. So I actually really hope more teams do co-ed. Like, and I mean, obviously like there wouldn't be such thing as a league being a co-ed league because that wouldn't exist, but that would be really cool. Like in sports, like a lot of my friends play co-ed soccer and stuff, and that's great. Like it's a good way to just mix it around and it's just more fun, right? I don't know. It's just I just thought it was interesting. So
yeah, no, I agree. Especially like when you talked about the part where in school when you're working in group projects, so it's just all guys and it's just terrible. It's like I have to agree the same thing. It's just terrible when it's just all guys because I think most of the time everybody has the same way of thinking of things for the most part, and it's just like having a girl actually expands like what you guys can do because there's somebody that actually brings in a different perspective basically. So yeah, it's definitely true. I was just thinking about like if that was the case in top level CS, like what if we got to a point where females actually were playing at the top level? It's like what do you think they would bring in CS in comparison to a guy? Like in the same way that we talked about how girls can add so much for a group project in school, what do you think they would add for like a CS team? Like at the top level, basically.
You okay? I think like a lot of like my experience working with like females and stuff like that, like in everyday work, like I feel like women are really good at kind of like being more empathetic about certain situations. I think a little bit more. I don't want to say caring, but yeah, they are more caring for sure. But like, I just feel like more of that emotional intelligence, I think, is more accurate, I think. And I think like if there was a really heated situation, I think women do a really good job at kind of de-escalating it in a way, whereas guys just go off. Like we're like just a volcano and erupt. Like you just get so angry, and then you kind of cool off. And Persian made a good point: is that most guys like you kind of hash it out pretty hard, but then you cool off. Like you just like whatever, it's not a big deal. But I think having like a female on a top tier team would be good for high stress situations in the sense of like calming down. Maybe I think, and kind of just bringing a bit of balance. I think, and just a different opinion, right? Because I think guys all kind of think similar, whereas I think women kind of help us think differently too. So I think it'd be thinking a little bit more outside the box, essentially, is how I look at it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think girls are, just more like kind of a combination, like the detail and the calmness is probably good for a team. Maybe it'll be less like up and down on teams. Like you won't be in the emotional swings as much. I don't know, girls, I feel like girls can get pretty heated quick too, but I find that girls around guys tend to like tone down the guys and make it more like I don't know.
Yeah.
But then all the guys are gonna want to bang the girl if she's kind of attractive. Like, it's weird. I could totally see that being an issue on a team. Like, no,
Maybe. I mean, man, there is some good looking girls on the team. Like, holy shit! I'm actually gonna look it up right now because I'm like, there's this one girl, and I'm like, what? You play CS? Like, you should
Really?
not be playing CS. Like, you were smoking. Hang on, I'm gonna find.
okay, find her. Find her.
I was gonna bring up though. It's like I don't think any of us will know, but what about like those all female teams? Like, how do you actually think their environments are actually, you know, do you feel like maybe their environments are actually similar to how the guys' environments are, or do you think it's actually different? Because I've heard it's like I'm sure.
You've heard stories?
Yeah.
You were about to say you heard stories.
I didn't say
You
stories.
reeled it back.
I wouldn't say stories, but I've heard things where people are saying it's like it's like certain female teams like they can get pretty like they can get pretty heated too, like especially with some of these roster changes that you see and stuff like that. It's like they take it pretty deep. It's like it's different compared to guys where most of the time whenever there's like a
Girls
roster
are
move,
going to shank. They're trying to shank you, like let you bleed out. Whereas guys are more like, I'm just going to knock you out. It's different.
It's so true. Like, it's so different. Okay, I found the girl. Her name is, I think her in-game name is pronounced as Mimi, like Mimi, and I think her name is pronounced as Michaela Lintrup, and she's apparently some random CS:GO. She's verified, so I mean, she's gotta be legit. But anyways, like, yeah, really good-looking girl, and I'm like, what? But anyways, yeah, like she was on my.
Can you paste?
Oh, dude, I'm on my phone. I'm on one screen.
Okay,
dude.
what's her name? What's her name?
Oh, nah, dude, just figure it out.
Guys, what's her name?
On Twitter?
Whatever. Give me all her social media.
I just said. I feel like super
Michaela?
creepy. Yeah, Michaela. So like, Micha
oh, okay, I found it.
Limtrup, and she's like a blonde, and I think she's sponsored by some people. I think she must play for somebody, but maybe not. But anyways, my point is yeah, like, I mean, I feel like if you were a guy and there was like a super good looking girl on your team, you'd be like, oh yeah, like, but that's kind of not really true either, because like, I mean, I work in a profession where I work with a lot of women, so it's like kind of the same thing. Like, I mean, you don't really think that way, but maybe
It's a little bit different. I think
CS, right?
I think it's different. Yeah, I think it's different in a professional environment too. Like, you just it's just different.
Yeah.
It's just completely different.
No, I think you're right. No, I think you're right. Like, I think it's not really like the status of being work yet. Like, it's still like sports. Like, it's like I don't know. It's different. It's esports, right? So, like at work, you would never think that way, and I never would think that way either. But in this context, it would probably be a little different because it's just a different environment too, right? But I guess if you were getting contracted under a pro team salary and stuff like that,
I think it might turn into work at that point too, right? It's
exactly.
just so different.
But I think the way we play, no, it's totally casual.
Yeah.
Fair game. But I mean, I think if you're working under an organization and you're contracted and stuff like that, totally different. It's working. So you wouldn't think that way. But all guys are different, unfortunately. So, well, maybe a good thing too.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think at that level, when you're at the top level, your priorities are a bit different. Like, if she's the person that you need on your team for your team to succeed, like, I don't really think that kind of stuff will really happen all that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That's good. See, I told you it was a good first topic. And you guys were like, "Oh, that doesn't have a topic."
No, what do you mean? Mahone was encouraging you. He's like, yeah, let's go with your topic.
I don't know. He was waiting for me to do
And
like
you're
a
like, I
shitty
don't
thing.
know. I think I'm gonna save it for later. Are you sure you want to go?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I just, it's kind of like a weird topic, and I mean, it was interesting when I thought about it and reading it. I was like, well, it's weird because I've never legitimately played with a girl in a long time, like on a legit team. I don't think I played
You haven't played with a girl in a long time, Laz.
Yeah, all right, man. Like, in Counter-Strike, dude. Like, all right, like, relax. Like, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting because I think, yeah, it's just kind of a weird mindset that a lot of people have. So that was just kind of my take. I think I hope more people are more open-minded and not just being like gender specific. I think it's kind of ridiculous, to be honest. So.
Yeah.
So like, shout out to any girls that want to play on my ESA Open team. Like, holla at me. Like, I want this to happen. So I may not be as good as I used to be 10 years ago, but listen, I will make you have a good time. You'll be laughing. Let's just say that.
Go to LAN with Laz. I mean,
I'll make sure. HLTV news report. Oh shoot, Laz and harassing women.
No, dude, come on, dude. I know. No, I wouldn't do that.
I know how to avoid that. I'm a part of HR.
Exactly. Actually, funny enough, like I thought it'd be. I'm kind of segmenting into another topic now. Sorry, guys, I got two.
Fine. Yeah.
Because you guys were making fun of me about LANs and stuff like that, and yelling and stuff like that. And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, it's funny to see players transitioning into new roles. So like, I mean, I'm talking about like Warden, right? Like Warden's like the CS:GO complexity manager. I think Fraud he used to do something with another team, and then he's playing Overwatch for a while.
Yeah,
right?
he played Overwatch for FaZe for a little bit, and then he became their team manager or something like that. Something along those lines. I don't know if he does anything esports now, but yeah. Or I think he does, but it's not related to CS.
But I guess like my like question / comment is like, if you guys, like, we're kind of doing podcasts and Danny and I are doing casting, is there anything that you guys would want to do now? Like, I mean, I don't know how much you guys really like play and compete, but is there something that you've like wanted to try? And the reason I'm asking is because like I've wanted, like, for a long time actually, I thought it'd be so fun to start like a team, but like in a way of like
an org, basically.
Kind of like a mini org, but like kind of understanding what it's like to own a couple players and stuff. Not like I'm gonna pay them.
This is so funny. This is so funny because Persian and I actually had a conversation about this maybe a few years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we actually did. Yeah.
I thought it'd be cool because like you can just experience it, and I thought, like, I honestly, like, for me, like, I get super excited watching CS. Like, I mean, you guys have both played with me, and and I was thinking about the Godicon where I was like screaming at the wall, and where Danny's on the other side and stuff, and like that's all real. Like, it's just like I honestly get so fired up, and like when Danny's CSL team, so the Collegiate Star League, the schools for people that don't know, Danny's team was going to be going to, was it Toronto?
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
so they're going to Toronto for the LAN finals because they're super good at CS. And then there was a talk about me potentially coming to like coach or whatever it was, or be like a cheerleader essentially. But I was like, that'd be so fun just to like see what they're doing wrong or just get them fired up and just, I don't know. I feel like that'd be such a cool job. Like just being that support person and being there when times are shitty, but also the good times too, you know? I don't know. That's like, I mean, I really like casting and stuff, and I hope it can turn into something cool. But I definitely think like I love to just be like at a pro LAN and on a stream and just scream like Jason Lake. I honestly like it's just this is what I want to do so bad. Like I just want to get people fired up and they just win a game and they're like, dude, it was all ass. Like you got me so excited.
Well, did you hear about did you hear about the Vireo Pro, like their CEO or whatever, who was only like 16 or something like that? Did you guys hear about that?
No.
Okay, well, either way, it's on Reddit somewhere. But basically, it's like, he owned a org basically too, right? They had an MDL team, right? And people didn't even know he was 16. Basically, he did a pretty good job, from what most people said, right? So I kind of think that, Laz, if you want to start your own team or your own org, I don't think it's particularly hard to do so, right? And if you want to be Jason Lake, where you go to these LANs and like you can easily do it, I think, especially for some of these MDL teams as well, like especially since there's so many LANs that come up as well, like Fragadolphia, the WESG stuff. Like there's just so many opportunities for you to like do that if you really want to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I think
the casting thing's gotta happen though. I was just gonna say the casting thing's gonna happen.
Hey, you think so? Yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
I was it. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to do a team with Mahone. I was like, let's just grind the team up, get it to like MDL or whatever, and then like have young guys play.
The fuck? Why am I excluded? What? Me and Mahone? Like,
I was just like,
the
fuck?
fuck?
What do you mean? Dude, this
What
was
is
like
this?
2
What
years
is this?
ago.
Private
Oh my
tea
God.
parties? You're like, yeah, hold my last.
To be
last
fair,
one.
to be fair,
Yeah,
it was only a
exactly.
Steam
Yeah,
conversation.
That's exactly.
What the fuck?
That's exactly
Oh
how it
my,
went.
dude, that is so toxic. Like, we've been friends for like years, and I feel like I could contribute to like team/orgs, and here you are on the
Yeah,
background.
dude.
You're like, Danny, just don't say anything. You know, keep him out. Shh. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, I know who I'm not inviting, dude. No, it's cool, man. Go on with your story, dude.
Dude, it was a conversation on Steam, or was it in person? I don't even
No, it was on
remember.
Steam. We didn't even use our
Yeah.
voice to talk about it. Like,
Oh my god, no! It was just like, I don't. What was it? Something happened, and I just like we were
Right.
talking about something, and then I just was like, dude, we should start an org and push it to whatever. It was like literally a one-time conversation.
Hey.
yeah,
Guess what? It's still a conversation. I don't even care.
yeah.
I'd
know,
still
shit-
be down.
Hey, you know what? This podcast started because we invited all three of us. I didn't go, hey, Danny, we should start this podcast. Me, Viper.
I think didn't I
No.
start the original?
No, you didn't. We talked about it when we were casting. We're like, oh, remember that dream we had about doing podcasts, and you killed it, and you're like, okay, I'll bring it back. And then you made a
Yeah,
WhatsApp
okay.
group.
Whoa,
You made the
first of
WhatsApp
all,
group, dude.
listen.
Look out.
Listen, I had two guys. Danny was impartial. He was just like, yeah, if you guys want to do it, let's do it. But I'm not gonna invest.
That's how
the time
Danny
in
is,
it.
though.
It's just never
Danny's
gonna
just
happen.
like,
exactly.
He's just like, whatever. And then I'm like,
Exactly.
fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, and then,
I'm
and then
ready.
I had to convince this other. Yeah, and you're like, I'm ready. And then so I tried starting this. We tried starting the podcast, and then what ends up happening? Oh, dude, I have this best friend coming in once a year. Oh, I'm a white guy, so we have a lot of like Christmas things going on.
Oh, my
And then
God.
today, if we don't have 5 topics by 5 o'clock, I'm not getting on.
Hey, it's efficient. So the viewers, for anybody watching, it's gonna be good conversations because instead of us being like, "Duh, I like talking about CS," we got
It's
shit.
supposed to be HR department. And
I just
it's
HR'd you.
less-
You don't even know I HR'd you, and I HR'd you.
No. That's not HR. That's like you having like a spasm in the middle of the
Oh
afternoon,
my-
and then you're
That's
just
not
like,
after.
you don't bring her out the topics. I'm not getting on. It's like, that's not the way to bring up the conversation. You're like, hey guys, can we each come up with one topic, and then we can like discuss it. Today.
Listen,
'Cause
I know
it's
how
a
you.
little
I know how you
lackluster.
work. Toxicity with toxicity, and you're like, "I'm gonna show that motherfucker." And then you're like, boom, topics, and I'm like, "Look at that, profit." Did I not just get that right? Yes, I
No,
was
you didn't.
mad.
You didn't
I was
get it
mad.
right. You didn't get it right because right now we're off topic and we're
Yeah,
just
it's good.
arguing.
It's okay. All right. Sorry. We were. Yeah, go on. So we were talking about starting. What's the next thing you would want to do if you want to stay in esports? And you were saying you and Danny had a private meeting about making an org, and that's where it ended. So where are we at now? Danny, what did you want to do? Unless Persian had more to say before I got mad at him.
Well, you got mad at me? Oh, you're pissing me off, right? Pissing me off.
Danny, how about you? Was there anything like for you that you wanted to do? Like, did you want to start? Like, I know we're doing casting, but was there something that you were like, oh, I want to do this? Like, this is something I really want to try. Like, full in.
I think before, I think when I was a player, I guess I kind of had to run through my list. When I was a player before, like when we went to Vancouver, Godicon, and all that stuff, I actually did have thoughts like, oh, what if I held my own LAN? I've been at a point where I've basically done that now, so I'm happy with that. I'd like to maybe be responsible for holding like a bigger scale LAN in the future, right? Not necessarily like part of an org or anything like that, but like more just like for myself. So think more along the lines of Frag Godolphi or something like that, right? But
Okay.
not in the near future yet, but someday. I think the other thing that I wanted to do was also cast, but I'm doing that with you right now, so that's good. Another thing I wanted to do was I wanted to create more content. I really like making like frag videos and stuff like that. I did a little bit of that for CSL last year. I used to do that for some of the LAN videos, and I remember you were talking to me before, like, where's that LAN video? You know, it's funny because I was actually looking through my hard drive and I found like old clips of all that stuff. So I could finish it today if I really wanted to, it would have been really a long time ago. So yeah, I think for me, what I'd like to do is actually maybe in the future, not exactly sure when, but kind of create more content. So when it comes either frag videos or maybe even tutorials or things along those lines for people to kind of like get into the scene more, to either become better as players or become more involved, or whatever it is that basically brought me a lot of joy in this game. I think other than that, I think I've had my own thoughts about like maybe holding a league, like similar to how ESCA, Face It, CEVO, kind of like that type of deal, right? It's definitely a little bit different than a LAN, but at the same time, it's like no, I think it's something that's worth trying out in the future. So I think that's what I'd say.
That's pretty cool. Like, it sounds like you pretty much have done a lot of things that you listed too, which is
Yeah.
And like for people that like actually have no idea, like Danny did organize a lot of these Northwest lands. He's pretty responsible for making sure they actually work. And he actually saved a land that I was at because they didn't know what they were doing, and he had to do it via Steam. And I almost had to play land matches online, and it was God, it was the worst thing ever. But Danny luckily saved us, and I was like, oh my God.
Through a phone call, basically.
Man, it was so toxic. I was so mad, like worst. That was like the TGS experience, but like way worse. It was just like this is ridiculous. But like, yeah, no, that's cool. That's really, really cool. And it's sweet that you want to keep doing events, because I think that's a really thing, especially in our region. I mean, with the gaming stadium coming in too, I think that's actually really
that'll probably
good.
be the big push for it. I think that will really jumpstart a lot of our events. So yeah, for sure.
And for people that don't know, TGS is the gaming stadium that's located in Vancouver, British Columbia on the Pacific side. It's going to be a new stadium that's made for, it's going to be like a host for a lot of esport games and titles. And Danny has a lot of expertise with CSGO. But I think, Danny, you've done a little bit of stuff with some other games, right? Like, didn't you do, it wasn't Dota, but you didn't do League, did you?
No, I didn't really have, no, I think it's mostly just been CS. I wouldn't really say I've had expertise in other games, but mostly just CS, yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Persian, was there anything that you like wanted to pursue that you haven't done or you want to really do, or is it just kind of been like whatever?
Start an org.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
what was you? Did you have a name? Did you patent it?
No, I didn't really care about the name. We would have just made some like silly name up, but
Persian's money.
Persian gaming.
Samir Rohani.
No, it was just I really did think like an org was like a potentially easy way to make money. Like not easy way to make money, but it'd be easy way to like do something that you like and like sustain your life doing it.
Basically, a fulfilling way to make money is what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, obviously they could be totally different in person, and like the saying like where you meet people that you like when you meet someone you really want to meet, they're not the same person that you thought they'd be. But I really want to meet Jason Lake. I think he'd be a really cool person to talk to from being an org standpoint, from a guy that put in like hundreds of thousands of dollars into a company. Yeah. And then even Optic Hex too. Like, he's somebody that I think started from ground zero and built this pretty cool brand, like Greenwall Optic, right? Like, I think it's pretty cool to see. And like even like I'm just trying to think. Like,
your mic cuts out a little bit, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty rude. Is it because I'm too far away? I don't know.
Maybe, but it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, there's some cool orgs and like org owners that would be really interesting to talk to and just kind of see, like, in a one-on-one perspective, like what their experience was. Like, I've heard a few things from podcasts, but it's pretty cool. Like, yeah, I agree. I think it'd be a cool way to do a lot of things to sustain kind of a lot of business aspects and relationships and being in the community.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that, like, Jason Lake, when he was starting Complexity, it's like, man, the dedication he had to starting that org during that time too, where esports wasn't a big thing yet. It's so hard to push out more content and stuff like that, right? Like, things like YouTube weren't a big thing yet. Things like Twitter weren't a big thing. Like, there were just so many barriers back then if you think about it compared to today. Like, today, if you want to start an org, it's not hard to get a Twitter page, get a Facebook page, get a YouTube channel, and like just start pushing out content, building your brand. Back then, it was like so difficult.
Yeah, it has its own challenges now, though.
Yeah.
Like, now it's like so many.
There's so many now. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like you get three idiots on a Discord call and record it, and you have yourself a podcast. It's that easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. That was pretty cool. I think we captured kind of everything on my questions, like, or my kind of topics. What did you guys have? What do you guys want to talk about? What's exciting and what do you want to talk about?
Version.
Take it away, Mahal.
No, I always
He
bring it up. I always bring it up.
Hey,
No, I thought you were like the transitioner. You're like
No,
Mr.
no, no. All right, so Persian, what's on your mind? Like, what do you got in store?
Well, I mean, we can talk predictions, but I don't think that's that great. I think maybe we should talk about like the Canadian player thing.
Okay, yeah. I want to talk
Because
about that
they
too.
say, I mean, he's 12, or they're down to 12 from 20 to 12 now, and they just announced Twist is the 12th best player of the year for the HLTV rankings.
Yep.
They say Naf is going to be in that list also.
Mhm.
He had a great year. So I'm curious now. First of all, we should talk about their success, and also if there's any other players, like Canadian players that you guys can think of that like held the mantle for like Canadian CS.
Well, first thing is, it's kind of weird how there aren't really that many top Canadian players in the scene relative to the U.S., right? Even though, like, we're all part of North America technically, right? I don't necessarily think it's a numbers problem either because, if you look on ESA, there's tons and tons of Canadians. Like, I don't really know what the reason is necessarily, but like just in the recent memory, it's like we have Naf, Twist, Shroud is Canadian too. Who else is Canadian? Semphis, right? There's only like a handful of like Canadian players if you really think about it, in comparison to the U.S. where it's like there's just so many, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't really common for a lot of Canadians to be playing too. Like it was, but they weren't with like good teams. Like they were kind of on that like mid-tier level. I never felt like they were on like good teams now like they are. Like Liquid's like a top 2 team or top 3 team right now.
Yeah.
And they have 2 Canadians, which one of them is from my hometown. Shout out to Twist for being in my hometown. Anyways, but yeah, good point. I think it's interesting. I think actually I'm super psyched. And last time we talked about being like I took Naf to his first LAN, and I mean obviously I have no influence whatsoever. I like to think I do, but I mean it's pretty cool to see someone that when he went to his first LAN, and then he just blew up. Like I honestly think he pretty much had a really good run. I think there was one point like a year or two ago where rough for just being kind of thrown around a lot of teams, but didn't mean he was a bad player. Like he wasn't able to find like kind of a home, but now it looks like he has, which is sweet. And I think he deserves it. Like he's a really good player, and it seems like he's kind of grown up a lot. So it's cool to see. I'm actually really psyched for him. And Twist too. Like I don't know anything really about him, but that is cool to see. A young guy making it. What rank did he get? 12?
12th, yeah.
Twist.
That's pretty big, man. Like he's already passed people that have been in the game for like a decade. Like he's like, that's pretty nuts. Like that's pretty crazy. What did Forrest get? Like was Forrest on top 20?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because I think Forrest, like I personally think Forrest is still a top 20 player, even though his like team probably is not. Well,
Yeah.
wait, I don't know what Nip is, but my point is like he is a fantastic player. Where I used to think Get Right was too. Get Right is not as good as he used to be, but I think Get Right is still good. But yeah, like it's pretty crazy when you're seeing a lot of young talent kind of blow up like this. Like I'm pretty psyched. That's great too for Canada because everybody thinks we live in igloos, and I don't know. So it's sweet. I'm glad. I'm really psyched for those guys.
If you look at last year's list, actually, you don't have Forrest or Get Right on that list, and I don't think they're going to make it this year either.
Huh, that's interesting. I thought Forrest was for sure. I thought Get Right made like 9. That's why I thought he was on last year. Maybe I'm just out of the loop, but
Weird. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a turnover. I think like the new like group of guys has come through, and then NAF is obviously going to be in the top 11 at some. Actually, I just pulled up a list of like the top Canadian CS:GO players. I think this is a mix of CS:GO and I think it's just CS:GO. Some of these lists actually at one point you had like some pretty crazy like top players in North America that were Canadian.
Go down the list.
Okay, I'll go. So NAF and Twist are 1 and 2. Okay, that makes it. So actually that team, that Optics team, which when it had like Stanislaw, Daps,
Yeah.
and
There's a lot
so on.
Yeah, there's a lot of Canadians on that team actually.
Yeah, there were, and they're all on this list. So you have Stanislaw, Daps, Shroud is on this list also. They sort it by like how much they made. Semphis is on this list. Android, Sub Rosa, Steel, band. Jason R. He was on that Optics team also. Wardell, Uber. We were talking about him last podcast. Davey Moose. Okay, this guy I thought cheated. He was amazing when he was at the peak. Like he had like his skill level, in my opinion, was like next level. For the entire time he was playing, like he was ridiculously good. But he was a part of the band AZK.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was good across every game. Like you'd watch him. Like I remember he was playing Quake at one point, and that other version of Quake, like the newer one, but was basically Quake Arena, Arena, and he was dominating in it, and you just knew like, okay, this guy just has like really good aim. And then like the whole band like screwed him over.
The thing is with AZK though, like he gets good at games really quickly. Like even after he got banned, he played some game called Reflex, and after that he was Overwatch player. Yeah, after that he's played Overwatch Pro. Like I think he was about to play for Liquid until something fell through or something like that. Right? Like he's just so good at like so many different games. It kind of reminds you of like Skadoodle's background, where he used to play like AVA and stuff like that. So it's pretty crazy.
He has like, I think his raw aim takes him to a certain level, and then I think he's just like pretty good and like gets the game. So he also just gets good from that aspect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought he cheated for the longest time. And then who else is kind of an interesting name on this list? Then the list kind of starts fading out. Miss Harvey's on this list at 21. Ape, A2Z, what else? Kath is on this list also. Hades is on this list. Your best friend, Laz.
Who? Hades?
Hades, yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you two were best friends.
Yeah.
The Great One is on this list. Hello? Shout out to Aku.
Oh man.
Hex.
Crazy.
That name sounds so familiar. Huh. Same with Nerdy. Nerdy's on this list.
Oh, nerdy.
Nerdy doesn't count anymore.
He's dead? He's done?
No, dude, he cheated.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't. This is a while ago.
This is a while ago. Yeah, he got caught cheating, and I was like,
But is
okay.
this one of those things where he thought everyone else was cheating, so he started cheating and got caught right away?
No one knows, to be honest. Nobody knows.
He just fell off. Like I haven't heard about him since that whole thing. I think he just quit, to be honest. Like he just gave up.
I think, in my opinion, I think he cheated to quit. Like that way he could just never come back to the game. Basically, that's what I think. I don't really think he cheated that whole time. Although I know there are some matches that he played in where people were saying he's kind of suspicious, but I mean, throughout the times that I played against him, like I've never got the impression he was cheating. So I don't know.
That's fair. And
Godicon? Wasn't he on
Yeah.
like a full, like their team was like the clear-cut favorite? They had like a full main roster.
They had
when
a
it was
bunch
like
of
eight, and then
They had it was back when Premier was still around. They had like 2 Premier players at the time. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. And then they lost, which is weird.
They lost to us. You're welcome.
yeah.
It probably wouldn't have. You know what? It probably would have been in our benefit if they won, because they wouldn't have picked that retarded map season. They would have been like, "What? No."
What do you mean? That was...
bad season.
What do you mean it was Laz's fault for having it come down to nuke and season?
We don't talk about that anymore.
Yeah, Mahone, can you go over that again? So he picked season?
Basically, the veto came down to nuke and season at the very end, and then my team had the side choice because of like coin flip or whatever. And yeah, he pretty much trapped himself where he either picks nuke and then our team gets CT side, or we played season. So
why does a band even get to that point? I don't understand. How does a band
I
get
don't
to?
I think Mahone cheated. He won't admit it. Like, he cheated.
what?
Like, he mind tricked you and was like, yeah, dude, pick season, you.
No, I think it made sense. It made sense. I banned Inferno. you knew we were bad on Mirage, so I banned Mirage. And then you probably banned D2 because you saw, we were nuts gamers on D2.
Let's not talk about the past. Let's keep going. I don't want to talk about that moment in my life. Title that should have been ours.
It shouldn't have been a BO1 anyways.
It's the what if. I count that as the what if.
Yeah.
And
then we should have been.
Yeah.
No, I like talking about the jackass. Couldn't rebook his flight.
Yeah, that's pretty lame. But
either way, we were talking about Canadian players, right? So what do you think? What do you guys think is the reason why we don't see more top Canadian players?
I just don't think there's enough. I don't think they. I mean, I think there's good Canadian players, but I mean, there's such a big market for U.S. players that picking up a Canadian player is kind of a big investment, right? So when we're talking pro level, you got to relocate them. I guess you would in the States too, but like Canada's pretty far, right? So it's a bit more of a commitment. Then you get into like visa stuff, or I'm pretty sure, right? Like working visas in the States. So it's just more problematic in a way. So it's got to be kind of a good player. And really, to get recognized, like you have to do well with a tier whatever team, like a lower tier team, and kind of get recognized and be like, "Yo, like this kid's worth the investment. Do it. Like you'll be good." So, go look at NAF, look at Twist. Both guys are from BC, and now they're living in like LA or wherever they're living now. So,
well, also the population. Like if you want to like actually compare the two, just there's so many more people in the US.
True.
There's just a high chance that you're gonna get better. Like more better players because they have so many people in the States. So that'll happen.
Way bigger pool of people that you could pick up and they're going to be really good. So
but at the same time though, it's not like Canada's underrepresented when you look at ESCA either, right?
That's true.
Right? Like those are the people that actually like care about being competitive, right? So it's like I don't really see a big difference in like, oh, I don't see any Canadians at all. You see them around, but just there aren't that many that take it to that next level, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, I think even for us too, like it's a like I said, it's kind of a big commitment for us too, because like any lands that I went to, and this is low tier, is that like going to the States and stuff, like you got to do a lot of traveling. It's a lot of money, and to get to certain lands, like they're all in the States. Like it's not like they're close, right? So we're talking like even East Coast states sometimes too, and not even West Coast states. So it gets pricey. Like it's like you have to be so confident that you're going to do well at this event that it's like it's worth the money to you. Like for me, like I would have gone anyways, but like it's some people were like, no, like if I'm not going to come top 3, not doing it.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
It's kind of that. It's just the mindset of people too. So, and like how much you want to commit, right? Like, I don't know what it was like for NAF or Twist. NAF was a little different, but at Twist, I have no idea what it was like. I think it was just based from FPL, and then people knew he was really good. Took a gamble.
Well, I mean, Twist played for TSM for a little bit too. You have to remember that, right? Where he played with Semphis, Automatic, and I forget the other two, but
that's true. Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily say Twist is so new, but he is relatively new in comparison to like most other people who've been playing the game for a while now at the top level. That is.
Well, you like past like Semphis, and I feel like Semphis has been around for a long time, and he was a super good 1.6 player, and I mean he was good in Go for the early part too. Right?
Yeah, he was.
So it's cool to see though. Like I mean, new is in like people that came into Go kind of to me. So which is kind of awesome. Like maybe Source, but yeah, it's pretty sweet. But yeah. You got another one, Persian?
Yeah, but it's one that I didn't actually talk. So there was a post on the Global Offensive Reddit. This is off topic, I know, but it was really interesting. It was a correlation between age and performance, and it was like pretty apparent. Did you guys see this?
I saw the post, but I didn't look into it too carefully.
No, I didn't see it, but like it's an interesting topic because that's I think talked about a lot right now.
Yeah, and what's your guys' opinion on it? Because
I say my strongest opinion, honestly, no statistics or anything. I think age is just a number, personally. Like I think in this game and in esports, there's not a lot of physical limitations. Like reflexes, sure, but tweak your settings. I don't know. I just don't think it. Like look at Virtus Pro. Those guys were all over 30. And they were dominant in the scene for a long time. They obviously fell off now, but those guys own the scene. They're Virtus Plow, and those guys were way older than all those kids.
Yeah, I kind of I agree with Laz too. Like, I think that number. I mean, age is mostly just a number, just because like if you look at kind of like pro athletes and stuff like that, right? Like most of them don't retire until like 35 and up, basically, right? So from what I can tell, at least like in my opinion, at least, in terms of age, I think the only reason why you see a lot of players kind of like you know take a dip after they're 25, 26 right now is because esports hasn't been around at such a scale for long enough for you to really know what the age really is yet, because it's like for back then, like these people who are like 30 now, right, like 10 years ago, it's like this wasn't even that big of a thing, right? And then as you get older, basically, because esports wasn't that big yet, like even when you look back 5 years ago, CS is not where it is now 5 years ago, right? And you kind of start looking at, it's like, well, I need to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, kind of thing, where something that's going to be more that's going to pay off better in the long run for my life, right? I think what we should really look at is in the next 10 years, if esports continues on this trend, right? Like what are the ages of those people then at that point, where the people who are 16 that end up being 26, then you can kind of see it's like, okay, well, are they getting to that point where it's like it's actually a thing, or is it more that they just continue on and continue to be good until 35 or whatever, which is when most pro athletes end up retiring or something like that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Persian. Sorry.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, like, quick comment is you made a really good point. Is like you kind of get to a point where you're thinking about other things, like other aspects of life too, right? And that's kind of the biggest thing is the gamble, right? So, like there was kind of a point where I knew I wasn't gonna pro, but I was kind of like, do I kind of want to play and see if I can make it to like the MDL or the invite level? But I would have to put in like time and hours into the game, and I was just like, nah, like I just didn't want to. But there's even people too, like where they get to a point and they're like, hey, I could potentially get contracted with an org, make some money, and it's a gamble. Do you do the gamble? And not everybody wants to do it. So it's depending on the person too, right? Like all those Virtus Pro guys were kind of a funny situation because like same thing for them. Like they were at a point where they were making no money, but they played so much. 1.6, they were called like again or something because they never had an org. They always kept losing their org and never getting paid. And then they eventually got Virtus Pro, and they were like one of the highest paying orgs for a long time. So it's kind of cool, but yeah, it's just kind of everybody's different mindsets, right? So
yeah, I can imagine for them too. At this point, like they're probably just like, I don't want to really play this game that much anymore, just because like they've been doing it already for like 10+ years, right, at the top level. So I'm sure like in the case of like Pasha, where he has a kid, right? I think, does Taz have a kid yet, right? But either way, they're at that age basically where there's other things to life than playing, CS at a top level. And yeah, for them, I'm sure they're already well beyond that point where it's just like they're not as motivated as they used to be for back when they were like 20, right? So it's quite different.
Yeah,
No,
that's awesome.
I agree.
I agree.
I think that with the age thing, it's you're gonna get people that like you grow up and you kind of break this like regimen or whatever you want to call it, and you like stop playing 24/7, and then you end up just getting a life or whatever. And I think that's like the difference in pro sports is that they stick with this kind of consistent. I show up, I do my thing. You have like this schedule around your life. Whereas right now, I think CS is burning a little too hard, and these players are just going to get burnt out and not want to play by the age of 27. Like if like Simple, totally can see him falling off, like when he's like 27-ish, because he's just like, dude, I've been playing 24/7 nonstop since I was like 18 or whatever, like in the pro scene.
Yeah.
So I just don't think it's. I don't think it's smart as an org to do something like that, because you might have like this player that's like really good temporarily. I guess the org doesn't really care. They're just like play the player to the ground, and then we'll just get a new one when he turns old. I guess it doesn't really matter, but like there should be some sort of like, this is where I think the players union needs to like step up a little bit more. These players need to be like sustain their life a little better. Like playing that hard for that long isn't good, and I think that's where the players union needs to like kind of protect the players, but it's not really happening.
Well, I guess in that respect though, like, would you say that the actual age, like, do you actually think there's any physical limitations that you actually get that are actually significant when you become older, or do you simply think it's just a matter of motivation, you know, getting burnt out, like all of those taking a bigger factor in why people like tend to, you know, drop off right now, at least at, you know, whatever age it is, what, 25 or so, right? 24, 25 or so.
Yeah, I think so, but maybe that's wrong.
I think it comes with adapting. Like for sure, maybe you won't. It's not going to be exactly the same. Like you might be slightly slower, or like you might process information slightly differently. But I think if you stick to like just look at what pro athletes do, right? Like you see Astralis, and Astralis is like, I think right now, with all the conversations about them and like what they've been doing with psychology coaches and training and stuff like that, they're treating it very professionally. And look, they're dominating. And I think that has something to do with the way that their training is outside of the game. The fact that they get their mind off the game and give themselves a break, a mental break, and then go back to the game.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have you taken a break from, like, I don't think you guys have played any other games other than Counter-Strike, right? You guys have basically only played Counter-Strike?
I played another game before, but it wasn't a first-person shooter, so it's not quite the same.
No, it doesn't matter. It can be any game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But,
Yeah,
like, any...
yeah.
Warcraft 3.
Warcraft 3. Okay, yeah. So what you'll do is, like, let's say you play it really competitively, right? If you take a break sometimes, like let's say for 6 months or whatever, you come back to the game, don't you sometimes get that like euphoric moment when you come back to the game? You're like, oh shoot, like I totally didn't think about that as an idea.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And
Yeah,
that's
100%.
Yeah, and so that is what I think Astralis is like capitalizing on. I think I mentioned this book before, but somebody I read it on Reddit that somebody was suggesting The Art of Learning, by Joshua something, I forget his last name. You've read that?
No, you told me to. I haven't read it yet, but I
Oh.
have it in my thing. Like
Yeah,
I have it in my like.
Your mic cut out.
I have it in my wish list.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So he discusses this, and he was like there was like a movie about him or whatever, but he was like a pro chess player, and this break that he would take after an event was super beneficial. It gives your brain that relaxation to absorb again, instead of just constantly trying to like hammer stuff into your brain. I don't know. I think teams are a little behind in that, but hopefully CSGO becomes more of a sport, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah. At least in my case, I played a racing game back then. It's called Midnight Club 2. After I played CS for like a while ago, right? Like when I came back to that game, I was like, wow, there's like so many things that I learned from CS I could apply to this game, and I wish I knew when I was younger, right? But I mean, there's obviously no way because I got that experience from when I was older, right? So yeah, that's why, yeah, for sure, it's definitely a thing where if you take a break from something, like I think it's like your brain kind of makes these like newer connections in your head subconsciously, and then basically the next time you engage in it, then you'll be able to use like those things that you gained while you're away, right? So I do think that the thing is, it's so tough though for players individually. Like you can talk about that on like teams and stuff like that, but like for players individually, it's like so easy for you to just like hop in, like at least if you're a pro, to just like hop into an FPL or rank S game, right? Like you know how Stewie's like been just playing like non-stop like this for the first like 9 days of the year, right? He's got like an unbelievable amount of games he's played. It's just at the same time it's just so easy to just be like, okay, if you want to grind, you can actually do it, as opposed to when you're like a pro athlete, it's like you actually get tired. So it's different, right? You actually get physically tired.
Yeah. But your brain is a muscle.
Yeah.
You gotta treat it that way. You gotta give it.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. Like I think.
Cut out again.
You cut out again.
Oh my God, this is so annoying.
Get it, dude.
This mic sucks. No, I was just gonna say same thing. Like I think motivation's a huge thing. Like if you're not motivated or your mindset's a little off, totally different. Like you just don't perform as well. Same thing with, I mean, it's obviously more physical, but UFC fighters are the same thing. People that hint retirement or are not into it, they don't perform as well, and they usually lose, actually, so most of the time. So,
interesting.
so kind of the same thing. Like I really do think mindset is a huge thing. I think Counter-Strike is so much mental game, whether that's talked about a lot or not. I think it is. Like, I don't think physical limitations are existent, except for maybe like, stretch your arms and stuff like that, maybe. But I really do think it's about motivation and mindset. Like, you look at these young guys and they're motivated. Like, they don't have full-time jobs. They don't have responsibilities as much. Whereas us, we're older, Persian and I mainly, like we have other responsibilities, right? I'm not saying different. And that's a little toxic, yes. But I'm just saying, like,
You actually cut out when you're being toxic.
I don't know why it's doing this. This is making me so upset right now.
Off right now with this mic. I wanted to hear that toxicity.
Oh, damn it. That sucks. I
Are
don't know why it's
you, are you using push to talk or no?
No, I'm just doing voice.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Okay, I'll change it. I'll change it to voice or click or whatever.
Right now?
Okay, here we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Dope. All right. Anyways, I think it's all about mental aspect of it, the whole thing. I think that's just how. Yo, what up? Are you on speakers too? Like, or oh no, he's on mute too. Look at him, he's talking. Anyways, we are. Well, let's. Let's kind of move on. If we have another topic, let's hit it because we're pushing like an hour 20 almost here. But I do, to wrap that topic up, I really do think it's about mental fortitude and just your mindset. Like, I really don't think there's physical limitations in the game, in my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Did you have anything else to add, Persian, or no?
No, I got distracted.
Yo, who's that honey? Who's that honey in the background, dude? Like, shout out to Persian's girlfriend.
Yeah.
I was just kind of saying before you muted yourself, if there's like another topic you guys kind of want to go over, we're kind of pushing an hour 20 right now. So I mean, we're actually
only an hour. Only an hour.
Well,
hour 6. I got the number. Anyways,
right, man,
I want to talk about one last thing. So I don't know how much CS you guys been playing, but ever since the AUG and the Krieg became viable weapons, what do you guys actually think about it now? Like, do you actually think it's a good thing for CS to have these weapons actually be viable, or do you think it should go back to just M4, AK, AWP type of deal?
Persian, you want to go?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. That's a good... See, it's like, I don't know.
Okay, I'll answer it if you want.
Yeah, please. That's a really good question. I have no idea. Like,
I like that question.
Yeah, go for it. Please, lads.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
And if I do cut out, just say something right away that I know. I actually last podcast I talked about how I didn't like the money change in the guns, like how each gun rewards differently. But I kind of thought about it. I actually really like it. So then when I thought about that, to bounce off of this question, is I actually like that there's more guns used in this game. It just adds a totally different element to the game. Like, there's so many more strats that you can do. There's so many surprises that you can do. I think it just adds so much to the game. And I think Valve have done a good job in most cases to add all these guns so that anything can happen. Like, whether pistols are OP, yes, sure. Shotguns, though, play it up close angle, you can make some crazy stuff happen, get high reward for it. That's awesome. I think that's great. So to go back to the AUG and the Krieg, yes, I think it's good. I think CS was getting kind of stale, just the AK M4 battle op or whatever, which is fun. But I think it's great that we have so many different guns into this game. I think it just makes it way more enjoyable as a viewer, and I think it just adds so much to the game. So,
yeah, no, I actually feel the exact same way about it too. Just that, like, the idea of having new weapons introduced into the mix, basically. It's not, and they have their purposes too, right? Like, you can't necessarily do the same things you do with the Krieg, like. You can't apply it the same way as you would with an AK. You have to use it slightly differently, right? So it kind of just expands more on, like, if you know how to use it, you'll come out on top for more of these situations more often, right? So at least in the example of the Krieg, like, it has a scope. You can take long range fights more easily than you would with an AK, right? You can actually win fights against, like, oppers with it too, right? So I think it's a really good thing that they've introduced it and like made it a viable weapon. And like in the same way that, you know, kind of like how the pistols, you know, all of them are viable to an extent, right? It's just like the CZ, the P250, the Deagle, like there's so many choices, right? If you compare back in like 1.6 slash source, it's like you either just keep your Glock or USP and buy a Deagle. That's it. Like there's no other weapon you could really use back then. Like there just wasn't a thing.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. I think the stuff that they were doing with the Negev and stuff like that was kind of like, didn't make sense. They're still not used.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Yeah, the way you guys are putting it. Yeah, why not? My only complaint is I think the set nades are still bother me. Like I wish there was more invisible. Like what's that? There's a word for it.
Skybox.
Skyboxes.
Yeah.
I wish there was more skyboxes to stop that sort of stuff. It doesn't matter. The physics is fine, but
what maps in particular would you want to see more skyboxes on?
all of them. I don't want any of these retarded nades that like. It's just it seems like it slows the play down. I feel like it takes away from like the Neo style players of the like look I'm a single player and I'm insane and I'll be able to just like one tap everyone. I think it's like more exciting. It's like the UFC taking out the flyweight. Just they want something more exciting to watch, kind of thing, than like people just like standing there with a nade in their hand for 30 seconds waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we had this conversation in the last one, so I don't think we'll get too much into it.
Yeah, but no. Anyways, I'm down with those guns. Those guns are great. It doesn't really matter, but just the nades.
Yeah, I think I just think it's a really good aspect of the game. Like I thought about it the last podcast, and I was like kind of mad about the reward system on some of the guns, like $900 for a shotgun kill. But I'm like, you know what? That's like a game changer. Like it's so big. And then adding like the guns with the scopes, like the rifles, why not? Maybe you're not a good like sniper player, but you got a scope on a rifle. Like, okay, sweet, do it.
Yeah.
Why not? It doesn't drastically change the game. Well, it does, but but in a good way. Like it can just benefit other people that are better with certain guns. So I think it's sweet. Like I actually don't hate it. I think at one point it was a bit OP, but I think they did a pretty good job to like tweak them a bit now. So it's good.
Yeah. I think right now it's at a good place. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember that one update, the AUG update. It was like a few years ago, but there was a time where they tweaked the AUG and it was like super OP. Like everybody used it, almost on the level of like the R8 kind of. I don't know if you would have played it though, because it was literally out for like 1.5 days before they reverted it back. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys actually think there'll be a time where it's fully converted, where it's like everybody just uses AUGs and Kriegs, and then only some people have AKs? Like, do you think it'll be flipped? Is what I'm saying. You don't think so?
No.
Why not?
I don't think so. I think the whole aspect of AK and M4 is they're still like, I think personally they're better rifles for damage wise, and I think even reload time shorter and stuff like that. So there is pros to them. I think they were like quite a bit different. Well, not a drastic change in reload time, but there is benefits to using them. And I think they're all good in their own way, and it just kind of depends what you like. But I hope it doesn't go that way, because I think there is benefits to using the original guns too. So I really hope we don't see like a full Call of Duty thing where it's just scoped AUGs and Kriegs and ops. I'm like,
I think the one thing though is like using those other rifles, like the M4 AK, you're a lot more mobile with them too, comparison to the AUG and Krieg, where you basically always have to clear things like systematically, kind of, where it's like with the M4 AK you can kind of just like run in and quick clear things more easily, whereas the other weapons you can't do that as easily, just because at least at this point right now a lot of people don't really know how to their mechanics of the weapons aren't quite as refined yet. And I mean, it's understandable. Like everybody's been using the M4 AK for like 5 years now, and then only now it's becoming a little bit more mainstream to use like these other weapons, right? So it can only be like a year max that people have been using these weapons.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that. So, that's it. I think I think CS is in such a good spot right now. Like, and I think it brings so much element to the game, and it's just fun to watch. Like, honestly, every time I watch a game, I feel like I'm learning something new, or I just see something different. I'm like, oh, that's really creative. That's cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think CS is in like a really good spot right now too.
Still staying on one of the top esport titles. It's pretty sweet. I'm glad to see it, because I know there was always that controversy, like player count was low and stuff like that. But I think it always has good viewership. Like, I think it's going to be that game where tournaments are happening. It's going to have good numbers, and then you compare it to games like Fortnite, which is more casual. It's trying to be an esport, but it's casual, but like it's kind of single player based, but with friends and stuff. It's a little bit different, but I think CS is just going to be big in numbers for tournaments and stuff, which is, I think, is fine. Like, you don't need to have like constant streaming numbers. Maybe you do, but I think for tournaments you do, but it's usually pretty good.
I think that's the biggest thing with CS though. CS is like so stable. If you think about how long it's been around for like 20 years almost, basically. If you look, and big thing is also it's like Valve doesn't really dump money into it either, right? If you compare the other titles like Overwatch, League of Legends, like their game developers dump money into it, but when it comes to CS, Valve, they barely put any money into it. They put all their money into Dota 2 instead.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's upsetting. It's pretty upsetting.
It is, but I think it's going in a good direction. I think like there's a reason they're doing that, and I mean, maybe we'll find out kind of why, but it does look like, I think there was an article about prize pool being pretty good. Like 2018 was like a pretty significant year for CS. Like it was a good year for us for incentive prize pool total.
Yeah. I think it just speaks to like how good of a game CS is more of what I'm saying. That like it doesn't need the support of the game developers to be such a big title, basically, you know? Like completely different from all the other games.
Yeah, I guess my frustration is like, if they would, then it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think is there anything, last comments or anything you guys want to say? Like, I feel like I think we had a really good conversation today. I think the video kind of brought us all out here to get a little more excited for our third episode anniversary.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty much it. It's been an hour 16 minutes right now. So yeah, overall I think the videos really did make it a lot more easy to talk. I guess that's the right way to say it, right?
Yeah, no, I think it was good. I think like I'll try my best, and especially with the new internet too, I think it'll be a lot easier for us to do this, and it's a little bit more it's just kind of nice to put a face to the name too, right? Instead of just looking at a screen with Discord, it's pretty lame.
I mean, Purgeon's picture is pretty funny though. Like
yeah, I like my picture.
All right. Any closing comments? Do a little bit of outro, Laz, or I don't know.
Oh man, lead me up to the outro, eh? Yeah, just want to say, you know, same thing. Like, thanks so much, everybody. If there is people watching and listening and stuff like that, like we are open to feedback all the time. And like I said, this is just like a fun thing for the three of us to do. Like, we're all good buddies, and we just like to talk about everything that we can. And I mean, we're definitely down to, you know, talk about any topics that are mentioned in the comments. So thanks for listening, and thanks to my co-hosts. Is that what you call them? Co-hosts?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Co-stars? I don't think it's co-stars, because co-star would mean I'm the main person. So the two other guys in the podcast, I'll just say I have no idea what the word is. I'm too tired. But no, it's great. It's always nice catching up with you guys, and it's fun just generally shooting the shit and talking about some stuff. It's always a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great, Laz. Thanks, Laz. I appreciate that.
I'm glad you were a little bit more toxic today. I feel like I was more toxic than you were, which is actually
unnecessary. I don't understand.
Hey man, you got me fired up today. You were just like, "Oh, HR Laz, what a dick." I'm like, "All right, dude, fuck." All right.
Yeah, it was extra toxic when your mic would keep cutting out. It was great.
No, this
Was
is
that
stupid.
intentional?
Maybe it was part of my master plan. You know, I was just playing with the studio mic. You know, I'm just getting the setup going here, boys.
All right, I'm
And
stopping
girls.
it now.